Phew, did y'all see that? That year? What the hell even was that year? Welcome to 2021 and welcome to an all-new General Hospital MV, my GH after show. Before we get into what happened in Port Charles this week, can we talk about how in 2020, despite the pandemic, GH was firing on all cylinders? In fact, I would argue that the only bad thing about it, or the worst thing about it, was the fact that it got shut down and we had to endure several weeks of Best of Sunny episodes. Some of the highlights for me include Maurice Bernard's and Max Gale's performances during Mike's final days, Emma Sam's reprising the role of Holly despite being sick with COVID and being trapped in the UK and shooting some scenes for us. Also, Laura gaining 2 siblings, the resurgence of the Quartermain family, and even Taggart's return despite him doing stupid shit. The show does still have its flaws, but honestly it's been really good this year. And also, this is just based on me occasionally flipping through channels and running into the otother soaps. I feel like GH is the only soap out of all of them that it doesn't seem as obvious that they're working in these new conditions. I mean, I watch other soaps and it's really obvious when characters aren't even in the same room at the same time together and shooting their scenes separately, and you can just tell that they're staring into nothing and that the other person is staring back into nothing, or when characters are kissing and they're using a test dummy, or they're using the spouses of the actors as a step-in when they want characters to kiss. Our soap is taking a different approach. I mean, they have the kisses happen off screen, they kind of fade out or cut out right when they're about to kiss and imply after that they did kiss, and they're finding creative ways to show off the chemistry between couples without having them kiss or having them make love in a montage. Probably the best example of this is Ava and Nicholas. I mean, they were a couple that flourished post-pandemic, so they've had to be really creative in how they show this couple kind of getting closer and closer, and it's really paid off for them. I actually really like Ava and Nicholas, even though they are really morbid. That's not only a credit to the actors and the writers, but also the production team that have to kind of take these new measures and show off certain things without being able to do things that they normally do. So I just wanted to say congratulations, GH, on putting on one hell of a show in 2020 despite everything that was thrown at you last year. Let me know in the comments below what your highlights of General Hospital were last year. Now, on with the show. Let's talk about what happened this week in Port Charles. Molly decided that Christmas Eve would be the best time to tell TJ that she and Brando slept together when she thought that he wanted nothing to do with her, but she did make it known that Jordan said something to her that made it seem like her and TJ were truly over. Obviously, TJ was very upset with Molly, but he was more upset with Jordan. When TJ told Molly to leave and Jordan came back to the house, TJ confronted Jordan on what she had said to Molly and said that Molly slept with Brando, and he even put 2 and 2 together and realized that Jordan knew exactly who kidnapped him. I am totally here for Jordan being ripped to shreds by her family right now. I mean, obviously, Jordan thought that she had their best interests at heart, but honesty is very important, not only to Curtis, but also to TJ. And she deserves to have some consequences for her actions. To be honest, I don't think that TJ or Curtis will be able to move past what Jordan had done, but I think that TJ and Molly, on the other hand, definitely have a chance to work things out. TJ knows Molly well enough to know that she's not going to cheat again, and so he believes that they can work things out. And obviously it's going to be a bit of a slow process, but they are functional enough to get past this. I love that Molly and TJ are the most functional couple in Port Charles, especially when the rest of Port Charles is so chaotic. Speaking of chaos, the trio that is Scott Baldwin, Dr. Lisa Lobrecht, and Franco Baldwin is the very definition of chaotic energy. The 3 of them lurking around the hospital was truly ridiculous. Between Franco's stealth mode and Dr. Obrecht's awful blonde wig, they couldn't have been more obvious. But still, they managed to get away with it. Obrecht is not going to be able to hide herself much longer because her daughter is the chief of staff, and we'll get into Britt in a little bit, but first I want to talk about the scenes that happened at the Frizz house. Cameron has been having a hard time dealing with Dev's death, especially during the holidays. Terry came over to spend some time with the Frizz family, and she let Cameron know that it was okay to not be okay. Terry shared some of her past experiences from before she came back to Port Charles, one of them being that she lost her friend Abby to a hate crime. She was killed for being transgender, and I really appreciated that. Now, something that I've said in the past before is that I've always really appreciated the approach that the writers have taken with Terry, in the sense that they don't really make the fact that she's transgender relevant to who she is as a character. It takes a back seat. They write her as a doctor and a friend, and the rest of it doesn't really matter. And I think that's important when it comes to writing transgender characters, to really normalize the fact that they're just regular people just like anyone else. But with that said, it is important to shed some light on the real issues that transgender people go through in their lives. And I really appreciate that they didn't do this in like a preachy kind of way. They made it relevant to what was going on in the scene currently. You guys know what I'm talking about when soaps take a really preachy approach to some real life issues and it comes across as kind of, I don't even know, they kind of trivialize certain things, but in this case, it really made sense for Terry to tell that story to Cameron, and it was a great way to tell the audience about the real issues that they go through without having it be this big, preachy thing. It was seamless, and in the end it did help Cameron, so I really appreciated the scenes. I love Terry. I hope to see more of her in the future. Okay, now let's talk about Britt. Now, she was pretty shaken up when she found out that Julian was dead. She was worried that his death would be on her conscience, but Jason reassured her that they wanted Julian alive and that they were just planning to take him back to the PCPD to bring Cyrus down, and then that didn't happen. Now later on, there's a scene of Britt alone at the nurse station, and her hand shakes violently, and at first I thought, okay, maybe she's still pretty shaken up over Julian's death and isn't quite sure that she's making the right decisions, but then someone pointed out that maybe, just maybe, it's Huntington's disease. We know that Nathan never had it, and we know that Peter doesn't have it, and we know that Maxie's kid with Nathan doesn't have it either, so it makes sense that perhaps Britt would have it. I am intrigued to see where they go with the storyline. I mean, we know that Britt is technically just a guest star still at this point. We know that she'll be around for much longer than she was her last go-round, but at this time, she's not a regular cast member. Personally, I really want Britt to stay around. I actually really love the character, and I think that the writers are doing a really good job with her this time around. They're writing her as flawed, but sympathetic, so it makes you want to root for her, you know what I mean? By the way, Britt's brother Peter and her soon-to-be sister-in-law Maxie have decided that they're going to name their baby girl Louise after Lulu. Moving on, let's talk about Chillo. The two of them had some really adorable scenes this week where they both partook in this polar jump where they dive into the water in freezing temperatures for charity. I was so here for it. It was so adorable when Chase held Willow's hand and they jumped in together. I love them so much. Thankfully, Michael wasn't there because he found out last night what happened to Sunny and he insisted that she goes by herself. Thank you, Michael. You did us a solid. Finn, Anna, and Gregory were also all there to cheer them on, and all of the group, including Willow, went to Rice Plaza after to have some hot chocolate. Chase told Willow about how Finn tried and begged him to tell her the truth, and Willow actually went over to thank Finn for that. After that, Chase asked Willow out for dinner so that they could talk together, and Willow said that she was down for that. Yes, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. After that, everyone dispersed and went home, except for Finn and Gregory, who spent more time together at the Rice Plaza. They had a bit of a run-in with Alexis, but we'll get into that in a minute. Now, when Anna was at home, Jackie showed up at the door, and they had a very civil conversation about Finn and Jackie's past. Jackie solidified once again that Chase was, in fact, Gregory's, but I think we all know at this point that that is probably very unlikely. And I think even Anna and Finn probably realize that as well. Alright, now let's talk about Alexis. Like I said, she was at Rice Plaza and she ran into Finn and Gregory and she was drunk as a skunk. I have to say, I laughed when she casually mentioned that she had sex with Finn and that he didn't even die. I love Nancy Lee Grahn so damn much. She's so hilarious. Finn notices that Alexis has a big cut on her hand from a piece of broken glass and takes her to GH to get some stitches. When he asks her for him to call someone, she says Ned, and so he calls Ned to pick her up. Ned, Olivia, and Tracy were at the MetroCourt at the time, and Tracy wasn't too happy when Ned got that call. She was busy worshipping the ground that Olivia walks upon, and Olivia was getting a little bit suspicious about it. Honestly, if Alexis doesn't spill the beans when she's drunk about her and Ned's one-night stand, I feel like Olivia's just going to figure it out based on Tracy's behavior. Olivia's no dummy. She knows when something is up. Speaking of characters that aren't dumb, let's touch base on Cyrus Renault. He remains one step ahead of the Corinthos clan because he already knew that Sunny fell off a bridge and is potentially dead. And on top of that, he puts Brando on notice, saying he's questioning his loyalty and that if he finds out that he's working against him, he will bring up the fact that Dev was in the country illegally to the feds and throw the entire Corinthos clan under the bus. That is pretty colossal. Let me remind you how many people know that Dev was here illegally. It was Sunny, it was Carly, it was Jocelyn, it was Jax, It was Jocelyn's friends, Trina and Cameron. So there's a lot of people that could be put in danger if Brando makes one wrong move here. Anyway, Cyrus sets up a meeting with Jason because he knows that Sonny is potentially dead and wants to make a deal with him of sorts. Obviously it was an ambush. Jason had already seen the sniper and took him out before he even met up with Cyrus, so that was okay. However, Cyrus did pull a gun on him, and bullets did start to fly. Carly showed up to try and rescue Jason, and Jason was pissed about it. Jason yelled at her and said that he could survive bullets, but he wouldn't be able to survive if she died by trying to rescue him. Jason, just wait until you find out what Carly Dunn did. Earlier in the day, Laura showed up to Carly's house and told her about how Cyrus was her half-brother and that he had a mother in Vermont at a facility, and Carly took matters into her own hands and kidnapped the woman. Are you kidding me? So even if Brando does nothing, Cyrus can easily take that information to the feds and get the Corinthos clan off of his back. This will not bode well for Laura because it's obvious that the only way the Corinthos clan could have learned about Florence is through Laura, and on top of that, she had just met up with Cyrus to try to have meetings where they can keep the peace in Port Charles now that Sonny is out of the picture. And Laura also went to Jackie Templeton to tell her about Cyrus being her brother, so all of this is going to blow up all at once. 2021 is going to be wild, y'all. And I am totally here for it. Anyway, that about wraps things up. Let me know in the comments below what you want to see happen on General Hospital in 2021. Before I let you go, I should say that GHMV Reacts will be back this Wednesday, and I will be reacting to a great milestone that I missed back in December. Robert Scorpio, aka Tristan Rogers, has been on the show for 40 years, and I'm going to react to something very particular. Something that perhaps not a lot of General Hospital fans may know, and it is going to be very nostalgic. That is your only hint. If you have any guesses, let me know in the comments below as well. And if you liked this video, make sure you give it a big old thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and I will catch you guys on Wednesday. Peace out. Congratulations.